The wrong handbag. Hold on tight, because what you're about to read isn't just a story. It's an emotional earthquake that will make you question everything you thought you knew about love, betrayal, and true strength. If this resonates with you, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and spread the word. Tell me where you're reading this from in the comments below. Victor Sterling never carried a handbag. Not for himself. Not for anyone. Yet this morning, under the cold, gleaming roof of London's Heathrow Airport, he held Sienna's delicate designer purse, nonchalantly, swinging from his arm. To him, it was a harmless gesture, one of convenience, not devotion. But every step he took across the polished marble floor resonated differently. Sienna walked beside him, slender and light, her cream-colored dress swaying softly as she adjusted her sunglasses. Her smile was small, private, the kind an ambitious young woman wears when she thinks she has finally won. He didn't look at her. He didn't have to. His grip on the handbag was a sufficient response. The luxury terminal hummed around them. Rushing executives, immaculate staff checking passports, and lounge music fading into the distant announcement of departing flights. A private jet awaited them, but Sienna had insisted on walking through the concourse. She wanted to be seen with him. Victor didn't object. Why would he? For once, he felt in control of his narrative, until he wasn't. It happened in seconds. First, the silence. Then, the weight of a crowd's stillness as strangers stopped moving. Conversations were cut mid-word. Phones were raised, not for calls, but for cameras. Victor followed their gazes instinctively. His heart slowed to a dead stop. At the other end of the terminal, standing, eerily still, in the middle of the morning chaos, was Amelia, his wife. She wore no makeup. Her face was pale with fatigue, her eyes darker than he remembered. But the last thing Victor saw was not her face. It was the 4 small children huddled around her. 4 identical children, each clinging tightly to her skirt, their tiny matching coats a ghostly backdrop against the polished floor. His quadruplets. Victor's hand opened on reflex. Sienna's handbag slipped from his fingers, hitting the floor with a sound far louder than its weight should have made. His mouth moved, but it produced no words. Sweat stung beneath his expensive suit. Time fractured. Amelia didn't move. She didn't speak. She just looked. Through him. Not at him. Her expression was not one of anger. It was worse. It was pity. Flash! The first camera caught him. Then another. And another. Passengers who had once envied Victor Sterling were now filming his downfall, frame by frame, in high definition. "Victor," Sienna whispered, her voice cracking. He didn't hear her. His feet wouldn't move. His mind was spinning, uselessly replaying conversations, excuses, plans. None of it fit this moment. No contingency had prepared him for Amelia standing there, with the proof of his abandonment clinging to her trembling hands. The children looked at him, confused. One small boy pointed a chubby finger, tugging at Amelia's sleeve. "Daddy!" Amelia flinched. Victor's stomach churned violently. People were now whispering. Phones tilted for better shots. The whispers grew to murmurs, then to audible questions. "Is that his wife? Are those his kids? Who's the woman with him?" Sienna backed away, as if physical distance could erase her involvement. She looked from Amelia to Victor and back again, her lips trembling. She realized too late what everyone else already understood. She was not the woman Victor belonged to. She was the evidence of his betrayal. "Amelia." His voice cracked like a man who didn't recognize his own name. She finally moved. Slow, deliberate steps toward him, not to close the distance, but to wound him with every inch of her composure. The children followed, their footsteps uneven, unsure. Victor's heart hammered against his ribs, desperate. Useless. Amelia stopped just short of him. Her voice was almost a whisper, but every syllable flayed him. "Is this what you carried for her?" She didn't wait for his answer. She didn't need it. Turning to her children, she bent down, lifting the smallest one into her arms, as if to shield him. And then she walked. Right past Victor, past Sienna, past the reporters now congregating at the entrance. Victor watched her go, unable to follow. And somewhere in the crowd, a journalist's voice cut through the silence. "Victor Sterling, can you explain this?" But he couldn't. How do you explain carrying the wrong handbag when your real life just walked past you, holding your legacy? The flashes continued, but Victor no longer saw them. Not even when the first tears finally fell. Victor didn't move. Not when Amelia walked past him. Not when the flashes grew blinding. Not when someone shouted his name over the terminal speakers. It wasn't until the first journalist elbowed his way through, shoving a microphone in his face, that he blinked. "Victor Sterling, are those your children? Who is the woman with you? His marriage is over." He opened his mouth, but his throat was raw, strangled with panic. His eyes desperately searched for Amelia, but she was already a few steps ahead, carrying one of the children and guiding the others. Their little faces were confused and tired. "Amelia, wait," his voice cracked. She didn't. Instead, she stopped midway. She turned deliberately and faced the sea of cameras. Her voice was quiet, firm, unbroken. "I am Amelia Sterling," she said softly, but the silence was so thick her words carried. "And these are Victor's forgotten children." The phrase was a detonation. To the press, to the strangers, to Victor himself. Gasps, camera shutters clicking ceaselessly. Even the automated airport announcements seemed to pause, as if the very building strained to listen. Victor's heart hammered against his ribs. "Amelia, don't do this!" He tried to move forward, but security, alerted by the escalating crowd, stepped between them. Victor's hand reached out to her, pleading, desperate. But all it caught was empty air. His wife looked him dead in the eye, then shifted her gaze to the bodyguard standing ready at her side. "Please, escort me and my children!" She didn't shout. She didn't plead. She commanded. And the guards hesitated for only a moment before obeying, recognizing not the billionaire, but the woman whose pain demanded respect. "Amelia, let me explain." His voice was hoarse, hollow. She stepped forward one last time, stopping just within his reach. The children clung to her dress. Victor barely breathed. Then she leaned in, her lips close to his ear, her voice barely audible under the roar of the camera shutters. "They will remember the man who never picked them up," she whispered, "not the one who carried your handbag." And then she pulled back. Victor staggered. "Amelia!" But she was already gone. Security flanked her, shielding her from the chaos as they pushed their way through the crowd. The small figures of the children disappeared into the people, swallowed by the flashing lights and raised phones. Victor's mind screamed, but his body remained paralyzed. Around him, the questions kept coming, louder, more hungry. "Mr. Sterling, do you deny paternity? Is your company at risk? Is that your mistress?" That last question jolted him. He turned abruptly. "Sienna?" He searched, frantic, but the spot where she had been standing just minutes ago was empty. No cream dress, no trembling hands, no presence. She was gone, vanished in the confusion that she had left behind. Victor looked down, disoriented. Sienna's designer handbag lay forgotten at his feet. The absurdity of it twisted something deep inside him. The cameras, the noise, the now public, irreversible betrayal. And in that moment, he realized what the world now saw. A billionaire alone in an airport terminal, surrounded by questions, with no wife, no children. Just the burden of a handbag he should never have carried. Above, the terminal announcement rang out cruelly. "Flight 234, now boarding." Victor Sterling stood motionless as the world watched his live meltdown. What do you think Amelia's next move will be? Drop your predictions in the comments. Sienna closed the door to the airport bathroom and slid down the cold tile wall, her knees trembling. The noise of the terminal outside was muffled in here, but her heart was roaring louder than any sound. She stared at herself in the small, cracked mirror above the sink. Her mascara was smeared, her cheeks flushed. But it wasn't exhaustion or fear that frightened her now. It was recognition. Who am I to him? Her breath came in ragged gasps. Minutes ago, she had been next to Victor Sterling, the billionaire she once believed was her future. Now she was alone, clutching her arms, shivering despite the heat. Somewhere in that terminal, his wife held his children. The children Sienna didn't even know existed. Her mind replayed it all, fragment by fragment. Victor carrying her handbag, the cameras flashing, and then Amelia's face. Calm, powerful, the kind of woman Sienna had once envied. Now, she feared her. She buried her face in her hands, but the memories crowded in, relentless. Flashback. Victor's penthouse. The first night she stayed over, city lights glittered through the glass walls. He poured her wine, watching her with eyes she mistook for tenderness. "She doesn't understand me, Sienna," he whispered. "You do. I'm trapped in that marriage. With you, I can breathe." She remembered the exact words, the way he said them, the way they had felt like truth. Now she heard them differently. Another flashback. Her first modeling job canceled after Victor saw the photos. "You don't need those anymore," he'd said. "Let me take care of you." She had smiled, believing that was love. In the bathroom, Sienna squeezed her eyes shut, hating herself for the memory. How long had she been a stand-in? A substitute? Had she been his rebellion against Amelia? Or his insurance policy? The worst thought of all seeped in, cold and slow. Maybe I was never anything. Tears blurred her vision as her fingers dug into her skin. She thought of Victor's promises, how he talked about Amelia as if she were ice, controlling, distant. But the woman she saw today was not cold. She was strong. And Victor? He had looked smaller than she had ever seen him. Sienna jumped at the sound of a knock on the bathroom door. Her entire body shuddered. "Miss, are you all right?" A cleaner's voice. Sienna's voice broke as she answered. "I just need a minute." The footsteps faded. She took a breath, but her pulse was racing. Now what? She had no answer. Victor wouldn't protect her. Not anymore. He hadn't even looked for her in the chaos. Not after Amelia had appeared, because the moment his wife arrived, she ceased to exist. Her gaze drifted to her phone. Dozens of messages. Friends. Strangers. Reporters. Her name was trending. Her photos were leaked. Headlines screamed, "Victor Sterling's mistress identified!" It was no longer a secret. It was a scandal. Suddenly, the walls felt suffocating. She stumbled to her feet. She fumbled for the sink. She splashed cold water on her face, hoping it would numb the burning shame. But the water couldn't wash away what she felt. This was all she had ever been. A tool in Victor Sterling's war against a woman she never truly knew. A war she never agreed to fight. Her phone vibrated again. Another notification. Another headline. She dropped it, letting it clatter to the floor. When she finally looked in the mirror again, she saw it. The end of the illusion. No glamour, no future, no him. Just Sienna. And her mistake. A single thought echoed in her mind. I have to get out. Not just of this bathroom. Of the city. Of the story. Of him. She reached her trembling hand for her phone and opened her rideshare app. A destination came to mind, a place he would never look for her, a 6-hour drive. She walked out of the bathroom, pushing her way through the throng of waiting passengers. She realized something darker. She was not running from Amelia. She was running from herself. The safe house wasn't much. Bare walls, blackout curtains, 2 bedrooms. Security cameras covered every exterior angle. To Amelia Sterling, it felt more like a home than the mansion she once shared with Victor. She sat on the edge of a slick leather sofa, back ramrod straight. The Quadruplets were sleeping in the next room. Her lawyer, Jessica Thorne, sat opposite her, silent, waiting. Amelia didn't speak immediately. She watched the steam rise from her untouched tea. Finally, she asked without looking up, "Do you think I'm weak, Jessica?" Jessica hesitated. "No." Amelia's lips tightened. "Victor did." A pause. Then Amelia began. "At first, it wasn't obvious. He made me feel lucky. Special, even. I believed him when he said no one else understood his world. He would bring me roses one night and silence me the next." Jessica listened, her tablet idle in her lap. "When I got pregnant, everything changed. He said it was too soon. He said the timing would hurt his image. I wasn't allowed to go to events. No baby showers, no public photos. I carried our children in silence while he continued with his empire." Her voice didn't crack. She was too numb for that. "I found out about the first mistress when I was 6 months pregnant. Not Sienna. Someone before her. When I confronted him, he said I had misunderstood. He made me believe I was paranoid, hormonal. He blocked my accounts after that argument." Jessica's jaw tightened. She had heard stories like this before, but Amelia's restraint unnerved her more than tears would have. "The boys were born premature. Emergency C-section. I was unconscious. When I woke up, Victor wasn't there." Amelia's hands clenched into fists in her lap. "I asked the nurse why he wasn't holding them. She told me he never came." A long silence. Jessica's throat tightened. "Not even once?" Amelia shook her head slowly. "Not even once." She turned to Jessica for the first time. "The world thinks he's a distant father. Cold, maybe. But they don't know the truth." Jessica's voice softened. "Tell me." Amelia inhaled carefully. "He didn't hold his children because he didn't care if they lived." Jessica blinked. Amelia continued. "I once overheard him tell the doctor. He said if they didn't make it, it would be less complicated." She let that horror sink in. "I let him take everything from me, Jessica. My name, my home, my money, and worst of all, my silence." Jessica leaned forward, her voice firm now. "But not anymore." "No," Amelia nodded. "Not anymore." The tea had gone cold. Jessica leaned in, her eyes sharp. "You need to decide now. Do we settle in silence, or do we burn him publicly?" Amelia responded without hesitation. "I want the world to know what he did, what he never did." Jessica nodded once. "Then tomorrow, we file the lawsuit." Amelia's gaze drifted to the closed bedroom door, where her children slept peacefully for once. "People think this is about money. It's not." Jessica's voice softened. "What is it about?" "Legacy," Amelia said, her tone bitter. "Definite. I will not have my children grow up thinking silence is strength." Jessica understood then. Victor Sterling's empire was not Amelia's target. His legacy was. Jessica stood. "I'll prepare the statements." But Amelia wasn't finished. She reached for her phone and opened a gallery. Dozens of photos, not posed, not public. Quiet moments of 4 small children growing up. Jessica watched as Amelia scrolled through them in silence. Finally, Amelia whispered, more to herself than to anyone, "He never even looked at them." Jessica said nothing. Outside, the security lights flickered. The quiet settled over the safe house again. But it wasn't security Amelia felt. It was the calm before the war. The next morning, the world had chosen sides. Amelia Sterling's name trended in headlines across 5 continents. News anchors debated endlessly over grainy airport footage and speculated about the mysterious quadruplets clinging to her skirt. Pundits dissected her silence, her expression, her makeup-free face. Was she a cold, calculating woman staging revenge, or a broken, betrayed wife? It depended on which channel you were watching. Equibotser, Victor Sterling's PR team, moved fast. A carefully worded statement was leaked within hours. Mr. Sterling deeply regrets the emotional pain caused by the publicizing of private matters. He remains committed to his role as a father and requests privacy for his children. The headline spun. A misunderstood father. Victor liked that phrase. Behind the mirrored glass walls of his penthouse office, Victor paced like a caged animal, reviewing draft after draft of his upcoming speech. His personal assistant fluttered nervously nearby. "Control the narrative," he muttered. That's all that mattered, but no script could undo what had happened. Somewhere deep inside, Victor knew he had carried the wrong handbag. And now, the media was carrying the story. Across town, Sienna watched the same headlines. Her name, her photos, her career. Ruined. It had taken less than 12 hours for the press to find her modeling profiles, her old Instagram photos, her interviews about women's empowerment. Now, every image had a new caption. "The mistress who destroyed a billionaire marriage." The online comments filled her inbox. Whore, gold digger, homewrecker. She almost believed them. She shut off her phone. But the silence didn't help. Sienna was curled up on the floor of a borrowed apartment, knees to her chest, mascara streaked with tears. The blinds were drawn against the daylight. Victor hadn't called. She hated herself for waiting for him to. On the television, analysts speculated on her role in the scandal, as if her life was a subplot in Victor's downfall. One pundit laughed cruelly. Did she think she was special? That's what mistresses always think. Sienna closed her eyes. Maybe he was right. Across town, in the quiet of her safe house, Amelia was sitting, watching the same coverage. But where Sienna cried, Amelia only watched in silence, her expression unreadable. Every insult directed at her didn't wound. Every accusation of being cold only confirmed what she had been taught. That a woman who doesn't cry is dangerous. That a woman who speaks up is ungrateful. Victor had taught her well, but now the world could watch, and Amelia intended to let them. Back in his penthouse, Victor rehearsed. This was a misunderstanding. My wife and I have differences, yes, but... He stopped, frustrated. The assistant waited. Then he hesitated. Sir, with all due respect, people might not believe you. Victor turned slowly, eyes sharp. I built this city's skyline. His assistant said nothing. Victor's phone buzzed. He checked it, expecting support. Instead, the text from his legal counsel chilled him. She hired Jessica Thorne. Victor's hand tightened around the phone. Thorne was not a divorce lawyer. She was a war strategist. His mouth went dry. Victor looked out the window, the city he once owned, realizing he was no longer writing the script. Amelia was, and she was in no hurry. On the world's screens, her silence spoke louder than Victor's carefully crafted words. The media was not covering a scandal. They were witnessing a public execution. Victor Sterling just didn't know if he was the victim or the criminal. Sienna waited in silence. The hotel suite was too perfect. Beige walls, gold accents, sterile luxury, like the life she once dreamed of. Now she sat on the edge of a velvet chair, wringing her trembling fingers. Each second dragged. She almost ran out when the door clicked open. Amelia walked in. No security, no lawyer, just her. Calm, controlled, terrifying. She closed the door softly behind her, the click louder than Sienna's heartbeat. Neither woman spoke. Sienna stood up, too quickly. Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Amelia held up a single hand. Sienna fell silent. Amelia crossed the room with careful, deliberate steps. She didn't sit. She stood over Sienna, her gaze unwavering. I know why you called. Sienna swallowed hard. I need to know if it was all a lie. Amelia tilted her head slightly. You want me to tell you the truth about Victor? Sienna nodded. Amelia's voice was quiet. Too quiet. All right. She didn't pace. She didn't lecture. She told the story. I met him when I was your age, 24. He said I was different, special, the only one who saw the man behind the empire. Sienna's lips parted. The horror dawned on her. Amelia's tone never changed. He told me his exes didn't understand, that he felt trapped, that I was his freedom. Sienna's knees gave way slightly. She sat down, unbidden. Amelia continued. When I got pregnant, he said it wasn't the right time. He said it would hurt his future. I believed him. Her eyes flickered then, briefly. A flash of something raw. I spent my first pregnancy alone in a mansion, with my own accounts blocked, with the staff instructed not to talk to me unless it was necessary. Sienna's throat tightened. I thought you were the problem. I know, Amelia said softly. A pause. Do you know what Victor said when I asked him why he never came to the hospital? Sienna shook her head, tears starting. Amelia's voice was pure steel. He said, they'll survive without me. Sienna's tears overflowed. Amelia leaned forward slightly. And that's when I realized something. Sienna looked up. Broken. Amelia delivered the line with surgical precision. You're not my enemy. Sienna blinked. You're the next version of me. The silence shattered Sienna. She sobbed, uncontrollably. Shame and pain washing over her all at once. She shook her head. I didn't know. I didn't know. Amelia watched. Not cruel, not compassionate. Simply done. I believe you. That, somehow, hurt Sienna more. Amelia finally sat down, her posture impeccable. You weren't the first, and you won't be the last. I loved him. Sienna's voice broke like glass. I did too. Sienna buried her face in her hands. Amelia let the silence stretch, giving Sienna the breakdown Victor never allowed her. Then, Amelia's tone shifted. Practical. Sharp. You need to decide now. Sienna looked up. Broken. Decide what? Amelia's gaze was ice. Are you going to keep begging for scraps of his attention? Or will you disappear before he destroys what's left of you? It wasn't advice. It was a warning. Amelia stood up. Sienna whispered through her tears. Why did you come? Amelia's expression finally broke. A glimmer of something maternal. I came so you wouldn't make my mistake. She walked to the door, her hand on the knob. She hesitated. Then, without turning around, Amelia spoke softly. When he calls, and he will, don't answer. The door opened. Amelia paused. Then she said the last words Sienna would ever hear from her. He only calls when he needs to win. And then she was gone. Sienna sat alone, sobbing in a luxurious hotel suite she no longer believed in, weeping for a future that never existed. But somewhere deep inside, a new thought began to take root. Escape. And maybe, just maybe, Revenge. The courtroom was colder than Amelia expected. She sat next to Jessica Thorne, hands steady, expression unreadable. The press filled every available seat beyond the glass barrier. Cameras were not allowed inside, but the world was still watching. Victor sat opposite her. He looked smaller now, not physically. The power had left him. Amelia did not look at him. She didn't need to. "Mrs. Sterling, would you care to speak?" the judge asked. Amelia rose, her black dress immaculate, her posture unbroken. When she spoke, her voice carried. "I am not here for money." Silence. She let the words settle. "I am here for my children." Victor shifted. Amelia continued. "I am petitioning for exclusive custody of my 4 children and full control of the family trust allocated to them." A murmur swept through the gallery. Jessica remained still at her side. Quietly, powerfully, Amelia's voice tightened, steel wrapped in silk. "For years, Mr. Sterling ensured that I remained legally and financially dependent. He controlled every pound, every decision. When I was pregnant, he isolated me. He denied me access to medical decisions and refused to show up to their birth." She paused. She let the silence cut. "He has never held them." Gasps. Even the judge's eyes flickered. Amelia went on. "I have documented proof of his financial strangulation, copies of bank records, surveillance footage showing his absence during medical emergencies, and signed statements from staff confirming his refusal to acknowledge his children's existence." Victor said nothing. Amelia turned fully to the judge. "I am not asking for justice." A pause. "I am taking it." She sat down. The judge's expression tightened. Jessica whispered softly at her side. "You won." But Amelia didn't smile. Across the room, Victor's lawyers stood, scrambling to do damage control. Legal jargon, corporate interests, terms like a misunderstanding, complex family structures, violation of privacy. Victor never spoke. He sat motionless, silent, but powerless. By mid-afternoon, the ruling was swift. Full custody awarded to Amelia Sterling. Control of the trust. Hundreds of millions of pounds. Transferred to her authority. Victor kept visitation rights. Amelia's eyes remained blank at the sound of it. She knew he wouldn't use them. When the judge's gavel finally fell, Jessica touched her arm gently. "It's done." Amelia stood. Victor remained seated. For the first time, Amelia allowed herself to look at him. Not with hatred, not with fear, with nothing. And that emptiness broke him more than rage ever could have. The doors to the courtroom opened. Reporters swarmed outside, waiting for statements. Jessica asked softly, "Do you want to say anything to the press?" Amelia answered without hesitation. "No." She walked out into the sunlight. The cameras flashed. People shouted questions, but she didn't speak. She just walked. And the world watched. Not Victor, not the billionaire, not the victim, but Amelia Sterling, a woman who was no longer silent, a symbol of quiet strength. Inside, Victor finally stood. His lawyer said something. Victor didn't listen. He walked toward the courthouse exit. Not alone. No cameras followed him. Outside, the headlines exploded. Amelia Sterling wins. Victor loses everything. Victor Sterling now lived in silence. His villa, perched on a private cliffside, overlooked an ocean he no longer swam in. The glass walls were filled with sunlight he never noticed. Staff came and went without words. Meals sat untouched. Power had never felt so empty. Each morning, he sat in the same leather chair in front of the enormous television screen. News reports played on endless loops, not about his company, Not about him. About her. Amelia Sterling. Public appearances. Charity launches. Children's health initiatives. Every headline carried her name. Every photograph showed her with 4 children. His children. Victor watched their faces age in each new broadcast, but he didn't recognize them, because he had never tried. At night, when the staff assumed he was asleep, Victor sat alone, rewinding the footage of Amelia's court statement. He has never held them. The words haunted him more than any scandal. In his mind, he replayed a question he never found an answer to. Why didn't I? No calls came now. No invitations. His name was a currency no one wanted. Powerless. Unloved. Forgotten. That was the price. And he paid it alone. Across town, a different world was unfolding. A small, quiet park. Simple swings. Worn benches. The hum of ordinary life. Amelia sat on a wooden bench, watching her children play. Their laughs weren't loud, just real. 4 boys ran across the grass, identical yet distinct in energy. One climbed, another spun in circles. 2 argued over a toy. Amelia watched, in silence. Jessica had asked her why she came here, to this ordinary park. Amelia never answered. This park felt honest, a place with no cameras, no narratives, no Victor. She closed her eyes briefly, breathing in freedom. Then she felt it, a presence. When she opened her eyes, Sienna was standing on the other side of the path. Time slowed down. Neither woman moved. Sienna's hair was shorter now. Her eyes were clearer. She wore no makeup, no heels, just simple clothes. She blended into the world for the first time. They said nothing, but their gazes met, and that was enough. A look charged with shared history, pain, betrayal, survival. 2 women, 2 lives, ruined by the same man. 2 lives rebuilt, without him. A child's laugh broke the silence between them. Sienna's lips trembled, not with sadness, but with relief. She gave a small, respectful nod, and then she turned. She walked silently down the path, disappearing into the greenery, toward a future she could finally claim as her own. Amelia watched until Sienna was gone. She didn't chase her. She didn't speak. She just turned back to her children. She didn't need to look over her shoulder. Some wars don't need winners, just endings. Back at the villa, Victor's drink remained untouched. The sun set over the ocean. Bleeding red on the horizon, Victor replayed it again. The same clip of Amelia's voice. I am not asking for justice. I am taking it. As the screen flickered in the gloom, Victor whispered to the empty room. I could have fixed it. No one answered, because no one heard. Victor Sterling, once the man who owned the city, now watched his empire burn. His children, strangers, and the woman he underestimated, standing in a light he thought was his. The price of power wasn't losing it all. It was realizing too late what it felt like to have nothing. And somewhere, far from his sight, his children were learning how to laugh without him. What did you think of this story of vengeance, redemption, and a mother's true strength? Leave me your comments, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more impactful tales.